This episode was brought to you by Beyond Pride. When you advertise with First Nations, make sure you advertise with pride. That's pride spelled Pryde. www.beyondpride.com. Looking to boost your brand's visibility? Digital Wampum's digital billboard, located on Cheesewood Road, is the largest LED screen in Ohsweken, offering local businesses and events the perfect platform to reach Six Nations residents and non-Six Nations commuters. Get your message seen. Contact Digital Wampum today.
Creators Game, episode 21. I'm Daya Miller.
Jay Smith.
Chris Vale.
And it has been a long break, like what, almost over 2 weeks for sure.
Mm-hmm. Almost a month.
Yeah, almost a month, I think. Yeah.
And have you guys been keeping up with lacrosse? Please tell me you've been keeping up.
Yeah, we've been following along, watching some NLL and the odd ALL game or a couple of plays.
Honestly, it's the season. I don't care what anybody says. It's February, but our summer season is starting now. So I've been paying attention to lacrosse, but what's going on day-to-day operations is from a general manager standpoint, because my phone's blowing up. I'm getting calls. I'm calling. I'm getting emails. I'm sending emails. Kind of watching what's going on in the lacrosse world as a spectator, but more so diving headlong into general manager stuff.
Yeah, it seems that lacrosse on Six Nations is really starting to get going, and we're going to start at home. So let's just start with minor lacrosse. I know that field right now are looking for coaches. They're saying if there's no coaches, there's no teams. But I really want to ask like a question here. Like I feel like a lot of people have been asking in the comment section, like on our Instagram and stuff, that like, you know, what are the pros and cons of box versus field, and why is box growing on Six Nations and like field's not growing on Six Nations? But in the States, field is growing, but box isn't really, you know. Those were the little weigh-ins that some of the comments got there in the Instagram. So I just want to know how you guys feel about it on Six Nations. What is needed so that our field has just as much fans out there supporting and all that as much as our box lacrosse?
Well, let's go way back. I played box field. I didn't even know there was field lacrosse when I was a kid. I didn't. I mean, there was, but I didn't know about it. And then you fast forward a few years and you get guys like Cam Bunbury, Cal Smith, Delby Paulus. They were the trailblazers. They went away to play field lacrosse. But on Six Nations, there wasn't really any teams. So chances are if you wanted to play field lacrosse, you had to leave the reserve to do it. Jump ahead a few more years, I ended up helping Six Nations minor field lacrosse and a guy named Willie Sky. He really brought field to the community because he also started traveling field lacrosse teams. I was privileged enough to help him with a few of those teams. Some I was just a spectator, some I was a coach, I was assistant coach, and It was funny because there'd be times when in the Ontario Field Lacrosse League, I would coach the team, same age group. Willie would coach for tournaments, so I knew the players, he knew the players, and oftentimes it was very beneficial because we kept that group together year round because they also played box together, and Sometimes I would be there coaching box. Sometimes Willie would. Sometimes, depending on the year, you get guys like Tim Bunbury coaching them. So that group of boys was a really, really talented, phenomenal group. And my personal opinion is after that group went through, so we're talking Dougie Jameson, his brother Levi, Blake McDonald, Braden Hill, Lane, Vern Hill, Austin Stotts, DeHogan Hannicoke, all those guys, that group of boys, there was a great supporting cast, and Riley Jameson, Con Montour, Brandon Montour's brother, he was in the mix. All of these guys, that was a phenomenal group of talented players. A lot of them went on to have storied careers in the NLL and still playing. But in my opinion, after that group went through, there wasn't as many talented, or if there were, they chose to play elsewhere because field seemed to kind of drop off after that. But that was also a time when everybody wanted to play at Syracuse, at Onondaga, because before them was Cody Jameson, Sid Smith, Craig Point, all these guys that went through on played field lacrosse. Some of those guys were the first in the first graduating class at the Hill Academy. Randy Stotts was there. When the Hill Academy started, they only their team consisted of like just enough to be on a field, like 12 guys. So my numbers might be off, but still. So that group, there was a few others, like Johnny Paulus, that are a little older than the group I mentioned. They kind of started the field lacrosse craze. That group took it and ran with it. After that, there was still kids that wanted to play. A prime example, McKinnon Park, fabulous field lacrosse program. Jason Johnson is their coach. Destroying everybody, going to OFSA, winning single and double A for OFSA. Assumption College High School in Brantford. That most of that core group of guys won triple and quad A OFSA. So what happened was a lot of guys tried to transfer from one school to the other to win OFSA again. They knew Assumption wasn't going to have as good of a team, so a lot of the guys transferred to McKinnon Park in Caledonia. What happens though is there's a rule for school athletics that if you're transferring specifically to play a sport, you have to sit out a year.
So like what is happening now? Because like you've mentioned that on the show before. So like what's happening like currently right now? So like even like let's talk about like the perspective at like ILA. You're a regular person who's coming into the ILA and is like wanting to get into lacrosse. They're probably purchasing their equipment. They're like thinking about, oh, what do I need? What are they coming there? Are they coming there for box equipment or are they coming there for field equipment? What is your average lacrosse person in Canada right now going to the ILA for?
Well, mostly like box is predominant north of the border, right? Like that's the main game. I would say more or less like the field season for minor. You're looking at starting end of March or April. You're done May 2-4 weekend, so it's a shorter season. Same even with the fall. I know for minor they're kind of done Canadian Thanksgiving weekend starting September, so you're kind of almost looking at a little more than a month season. Where a box season you're going from the week after March break all the way till what? Provincials and middle of August. Yeah, so it's just a way longer season, right? So, and like Jay said too, like in general, any of those, like let's say guys between their 30s, 40s, like different pro guys, they'll say like, oh, they didn't really play as much field. Where the Hill Academy and Brodie Merrill and everybody, where now these last few years in Canada, field's growing, more people are going to the States for college. You know, even then, not everybody's playing attack. There's long poles and face-off guys, and some predominantly. Brett Dobson was a really good goalie, and
Brett Queener. Don't forget Brett Queener. But there's to me, box has always been dominant in Canada. Field lacrosse for those that played always was dominant between box and field. Honestly, field lacrosse in the United States didn't even really take off until, I'm going to say, in my opinion, probably in the last 10 years is when it really took off. And
maybe too, even with just social media nowadays, especially in Canada, right, people are seeing highlights from high school. And that's the thing too, high school season's even way shorter in Canada compared to, that's your main, like you play high school in the States, that's your minor. That's like your go-to.
There were times when I'd be asked to coach somewhere in the U.S. for high school field lacrosse, and it'd be like June. So they got done school in May. I'd be getting emails in June. Can you coach next season? Well, when's your season start? January. Okay, I'll come and have a look in November. No, we want you here now.
And maybe these days too, kids have more options of just like there is the clubs, cycle for going to tournaments and camps and stuff like that for getting recruited by colleges, but also too what conflicts with their minor box season, right? And then or their junior season, right? Kids from junior C a few years ago had to pick, hey, do I go to this tournament in Pennsylvania and play field, or do I stay back and play these junior C games? So
I'll give you a prime example. I'm going to say about 2010, maybe 2010, 2011. That same group of boys were playing box lacrosse on one team, and there was an opportunity to go play in a field tournament in Rochester, but there was also a box tournament same weekend. Now the conflict was, if I remember correctly, Willie was coaching the field lacrosse team and Tim was coaching the box lacrosse team. And Tim was like, no, you're not taking my players. So that for field lacrosse in the U.S., a lot of these tournaments, and back then the craze was to get to the Dick's Sporting Goods Tournament of Champions in Wesley Chapel, Florida. It was a national championship for kids. So a lot of these places were hosting qualifying tournaments, and not just like upstate New York or on the eastern seaboard. There was qualifying tournaments in the Southwest, in the Northwest. There was all that, like you won and then you went to Florida to play for the national championship. There was teams there from everywhere. So for a team from Six Nations or a team from Ontario, because of the box season, oftentimes they would have to qualify there'd be like the last 3 qualifying tournaments in September, October, whatever. So they'd have to go to one of them and try to win that to qualify for the Dix tournament, which oftentimes they did. I remember one year Lane played for the Edge program, and the head coach there at that time was Pete Follows. Magnificent guy, great guy. His son Dalton Follows was a hell of a lacrosse player. And what management wasn't aware of, we went all the way to North Carolina to play in a tournament at Halloween. It was like we played Halloween Day out there, and we ended up making it to the championship in North Carolina and had to play against Northern Lacrosse from Brampton. So we went all the way down there. Edge was based predominantly in Oakville at the time, so basically Oakville versus Brampton for the championship in North Carolina. Northern won that particular game, but finishing first and second qualified you for the Dix tournament. So as the Edge program, management wasn't aware at the time that qualified us for the Dix tournament. It was like 2 weeks later or whatever. We were supposed to play at a tournament in Washington, D.C., and it was a one day, and I was like, let's save our money. We got to go to Florida. So like that's just an example of the Edge program qualified for the Dix tournament. Northern qualified, and I remember Willie used to take a team. At times he had the Royal Reds, and then there was Thunder Tribe he had. Then there was just Six Nations. He's taken teams down there under 2 or 3 different names, but it got to the point where that Dix tournament ended up being a mostly Canadian team tournament.
Would we say nationally, lacrosse, field lacrosse is growing in Canada, and then box lacrosse is growing in the States, where even some companies as Nike's got a box lacrosse shaft line, and Mavericks this year just came out with biceps and kidneys, and so it's more or less like they're seeing it bigger. You're right. A couple of years ago, Warriors started making actual combo helmets, taking their hockey helmets, putting lacrosse masks on them already. Mm-hmm. And maybe locally wise, maybe just more coaches, more people that have these guys like Jay's talking about played college lacrosse. Maybe they got to come back and kind of help coach the field, because the one thing a few years ago when I was helping out and kids were in the middle of kind of their box season, but also playing field on those Sundays for like minor lacrosse, is getting the kids of, hey, you can only sit a basketball pick in field, and maybe they were kind of setting that cross check of like, hey, you can't do that in field, and then just trying to rein kids in of what's kind of the rules.
Yeah, because like again, and a lot of these questions and comments are coming from like Instagram and people who have been reaching out. They're like, why don't you guys talk about field enough? And then it made me think that like, well, field really isn't that big on Six Nations, but then it made me think, well, why not? Right? Because
honestly,
why not?
It's taken a dip in popularity. Not to say that people don't play field lacrosse here. It's taken a dip in popularity. Honestly, I wasn't even aware minor lacrosse is looking for coaches. Maybe I'll throw my hat back in the ring and go back to minor field lacrosse.
And like I said, usually they do.
I'll only do it if you come with me, though.
Yep. All right, let's
there
give
we
it a go.
There we go. That's a winning team right there.
President of minor lacrosse. If you need a field lacrosse coach, shoot me a line. Tell me what your oldest team is. I'll take them.
And then my next question was in field lacrosse, who has really gone there to the PLL from Six Nations other than Austin Stotts?
DeHoga's played a few games.
Yeah, DeHoga's played a few games.
And then you've had, obviously, Zed Williams currently still plays. You had, like not from Zed Williams, and then you got Jeremy Thompson's played before. Like, there's been a handful of Indigenous players.
But like from Six Nations.
Just Austin and
DeHoga, yeah.
But remember, too, it's a newer league.
Yeah.
They only came around in 2019, so there's been a lot more guys for MLL.
Now, speaking of newer league, they did some announcements, and I know that you're keeping up with the PLL and
what do you got?
Where their locations are going to be this year.
What do you need your phone for?
I thought this was going to be like tattooed on you.
No. I just
our stats guy is slipping.
No, it's all good. We just got the cities.
It's all good. No,
they didn't announce like the exact dates yet, but the cities they'll be playing in Albany this year, Charlotte, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland, San Diego, Then the All-Star game weekends to be announced: Chicago, Fairfield, Connecticut, Salt Lake City, Utah, Denver, Colorado, and Boston, Massachusetts. And then usually those playoffs and championship they'll announce down the line. So kind of some places they do that city format. So like the Atlas will be the home team when they go to Albany, and Charlotte Chaos will be.
I remember taking the boys because there was I had 3 boys playing field lacrosse at the same time, 3 different age groups, and we were at a tournament in Rochester, and that's when the old league was still around, the MLL.
Yeah,
and we went there. Part of our tournament entry fee was tickets to the Rochester Rattlers game, and that was amazing. There was about 1,000 fans there. It was in a smaller stadium, but that was amazing.
It was fun the first season. They did come to Hamilton and play at Tim Hortons Field, and so that then it was 3 games a weekend. So I went to both on the Saturday, and that was a good time. And also too, there was some intertwines with the league, and supposedly they had wanted Andy Towers, the head coach of Chaos, to let go one of his assistant coaches. So they all left the Carolina Chaos. And then just last week, they hired Roy Colsey to be their new head coach. He played New York Saints, Anaheim, New Jersey Storms, Syracuse guy. I also played MLL. He runs a lot of stuff out in Connecticut. He was actually one of my favorite players when we first went to my Saints games back in the day. They would always be like, Roy Colsey.
What's the nightlife like for some of these lacrosse cities? Because on Six Nations, after a game or after a season finale for a game or something like that, or a season, it's like, oh, we're going to Yogi's, we're going to shut it down, the Healers are going to play, right? So now these other places, they got a little bit, they're a little bit more bougie, and what it seems like field lacrosse in the States is more like a gentleman's game, right? So what are they doing in the nightlife? What's it like out there, man?
I think a lot of these guys...
Never been around your parts, man.
I think a lot of these guys party and stuff like that, especially like NLL players, right? You'll usually see
basically there's usually a bar.
Yeah, there's
sponsors
having a point.
Yeah, they don't really do so much as they used to do back in the day. I guess you hear a lot of these guys say they would spend that little bit of money making playing at the bar after, when they would sign jerseys and stuff for the fans after. But also too, the PLL was they never had a GM before. You were the head coach and GM. So they hired Roy Colsey as head coach, and Spencer Ford, who was also a legendary guy in the game, he became their first ever GM. So him and Roy will have to, grow building that roster. Do they get Dane Smith back, or does he stay with the Chiefs? As guys like Josh Burns and maybe a lot of Cook guys, they used to have a lot of Canadian base. Like we talk about a lot of field guys, they were a Canadian based pro field team, and losing their coach to any of those players leave and come back and play summer ball.
Well, how about back in the day with the old Toronto and then Hamilton Nationals? They had a ton of guys from local. I went and watched them play in both Hamilton and Toronto. Sid was there, Cody was there, Craigie Point was there. There was some good lacrosse, but again, field doesn't have the popular grasp here that it does in the U.S. And I don't know how they would promote that. I don't even think it's just on Six Nations. Ontario field lacrosse, it seems the popularity is down across the board.
I like to say too, it's a lot of the hockey, right? They're always competing with the hockey and all these centers. Springtime
when field lacrosse starts, a lot of these other centers, kids are all playing double, triple, quadruple A hockey. So it's a matter. I don't know how many times we've got to the championship weekend. So-and-so's team had to pull out because 3/4 of their team was gone to a hockey championship. So, but that's the nature of the beast.
But yeah, I think some of these scenes, right? Some of these, I definitely have seen a lot of pro players out of the bar in my time.
Seen some pros?
Scotty Rogers or Matt Danowski used to go. Funny thing, bar in Farmingdale, New York was called the Library, and they said, "Oh, where do you hit up in Farmingdale?" He's like, "The library." They're like, "Who knew Matt Danowski liked to read books?" But it's like, oh, it's a bar that had dollar beer night, and so of course that guy was there. He might have the Duke education, but he's not going to the library.
That's smart marketing.
Yeah,
I think I'll open a bar and call it the gym.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the States lacrosse, and speaking of the States, we got to talk about everything going on with border crossing. How are these leagues? Let's talk about let's just start with the Can-Am League, simple league, right? We got a team on Six Nations going to have to travel over to States to play some of these other teams. All of our players, from what I know, have status cards, go across the border. That's fine. does the crossing of the border affect any of the lacrosse at all? Like outside of just like, let's talk outside of Six Nations, because on Six Nations we have dual citizenship, but
I don't
everybody else,
think so,
how is this working?
I don't really think so. I don't like one guy joked around, a pro player kind of recently, about his passport is he's pretty much Canadian without being Canadian, because even though he's from Pennsylvania, he's like, my passport just says Canada on it the whole time, and he's like, I can tell them Scarborough's a really nice place in the winter because he used to play New England Black Wolves, and that's where they would practice once a week. So I think it should be fine, for all these leagues and stuff like that.
Well,
like,
let's talk about the border crossing. There was a notice put out to our community today that Black Hawk helicopters are going to be patrolling the border. And we're how far away from the border? About an hour and a half, given whatever border you decide to cross. If you went to Detroit, it's like 3 hours. But that Black Hawk helicopter flew over our community here last night. So what border are they trying to watch? The Canada-U.S. border or the Six Nations Brant County border?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. You figure there'd be more in Niagara.
Gotta bring back those toll booths from COVID days.
Oh,
the toll booths.
People hated that because they couldn't get cheap gas and smokes.
Oh, I thought it was awesome, man. I used to like see all the videos on Instagram and all that stuff. Yeah.
But I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't want to give my political views, but I'll say this. His orangeness, his bluff was called, and now he rescinded all kinds of stuff. And his own federal judges are blocking all of these executive orders that he's putting out. So the border crossing, I don't think will be an issue. But who's to say what's going to happen in March or April or May? We don't know. I got family that's going to be playing in Can-Am. I'm concerned. One
issue about Can-Am, I've seen Jay earlier today, we were talking about it, is supposedly Canada Lacrosse is suing OLA. What do you need to play Can-Am and everything like that? You're coming from OLA, you need a transfer. Apparently, with OLA getting sued by Canada Lacrosse, those transfers may be taking a little bit longer. They may purposely transfer over the Ontario players a little bit slower than the BC guys and guys from other provinces.
And see, that needs to be made public. Why is there going to be? Is it rumor? Like why is Lacrosse Canada going to sue the OLA? That needs to be made public.
So, like we said with OLA, they were supposedly apparently at the provincials. We've talked about drinking on here before. Apparently, these minor systems got fined up to maybe like $1,000, $2,000. They just said, "Here's your bill. We saw a parent from your minor system drinking at provincials," but because apparently they were patrolling, but one of the guys that's on board for a minor place was like, it could have been St. Catherine's parents wearing our guys' shirts. They're like, nobody knows who it was or who seen what or what was anybody wearing.
That's a terrible example,
Chris. Obviously, he was from the Niagara region, that guy telling me, and he was just like, but he was just like, yeah, nobody says, so they can't even go to that parent with the bill or split it saying, hey, you two guys got caught drinking. You guys got to split this bill. So here OLA's, they're getting sued by Canada Lacrosse, but then they're making minor systems pay a bill. Where's that money go to?
Similar. How many of our Haudenosaunee people live in Niagara region? Right? Mm-hmm. How many? A lot.
Yeah.
So it's a similar example. Well, who's to say that somebody from our Haudenosaunee community that lives in Niagara is seen having a beer at an arena? People are going to assume he's from Six Nations.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you never know. That's and that was the point of just kind of, they were like, we don't know who. Plus, too, the gentleman, he's a fan of the podcast. He made a good point. He's like, what's the OLA doing with that fine money? Maybe they could put it back into helping addictions and stuff in the lacrosse community with that fine money that they're getting.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I'll say it. My famous words. I said what I said. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You know how many times I've been to a minor game coaching my children, who at the time might have been 10. How many times I've been there? A couple of cities in the OLA and are in Zone 9, and parents are drinking at a 6 p.m. game. But yet, it's always Six Nations teams and parents being called the drunken savages, causing trouble. And I personally have not ever seen a Six Nations parent drinking at an arena, at a kid's game. I haven't even seen them drinking at a senior game. It's always somebody from a different community. But when shit hits the fan and fights break out, it's always them drunken Indians started it. And whose side does the OLA take?
So I don't know if there was any warnings that they were going to be patrolling, but this year I'm sure these minor systems are going to probably crack down on their parents.
It's about
you would
time.
think so, yeah. Of just kind of like, hey, we don't want to pay, especially when they don't know who did it. Next year they probably definitely don't want to be accountable for.
I'll put it out there, and I'll look right down the barrel and say this. If you are a parent and you're drinking at your kids' games, I personally could care less if that's what you're doing. It's your conscience that you have to live with if you drive those kids home after drinking and get in an accident. It's on you. It's not on Six Nations and our drunken savage Indians, because I haven't seen anybody do that from our community. I literally have not. But you roll into a certain double blue city in the Niagara region, parents are drinking at 5, 6 o'clock. You roll into a little town past Hamilton, and parents are drinking at 6 o'clock. I've seen it. I've taken pictures of it. I've sent them in. You know what was done? Not a goddamn thing.
There was beer gardens at one of those arenas before,
There's
right?
beer
During
gardens
the
at
games.
all of them.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of can lead to like another like topic is like kind of nepotism in sports, because like all these kids are seeing what's happening, right? All of these kids are going to be like, oh yeah, hey mom, hey dad, those guys on the podcast are talking about you guys drinking at my games, because like these kids watch this show, so they're going to be like, hey mom, hey dad, they could be talking about you. So like you're going to have to look your kids in the face, and they're going to be like, yeah, like, oh, I shouldn't have did that. And then like even now, let's talk about the incident that happened with Brantford minor hockey. Have you heard about the Tavern incident?
Yeah. So like you said, it's, especially nowadays, it's a different world than even bullying. It'll be 35 in a couple of days, and it's like back, a couple of years ago where the social media really picked up of these Snapchat groups and things.
Hazing and stuff.
Yeah, and it's kind of, did they ever announce if those kids got suspended? I know that boy had to leave to go to Oxford now and play. And
Yeah, and just for context, for people who haven't heard, essentially there was a child who was playing on Brantford minor hockey team, and he was basically getting like kind of teased by the whole team, and they were gaining up on him, making Snapchat, exchanging Snapchat things about how they're gonna, harass him, things they're gonna do to him in the dressing room, and like some of the stuff that they're saying, like. We're not even going to repeat that on the podcast, because it's like, who teaches their children to speak like that? Like,
I'm surprised Gretzky hasn't reached out yet. Being that it was 99ers.
Like, who raised these kids?
Wasn't it U15?
Yeah.
Yeah, these things these kids were saying, whether they meant it or whether they didn't, they still said it.
Yeah,
I saw the posts. It's stuff that at that age, if you're saying it, you might not do it, but it's a serious threat. My thing is, you're right. Were these kids punished? The things that were said should have invoked a police investigation. And all of a sudden, kudos to whoever was involved to get this kid keep him still playing. Moved him to a different team. He's still playing. Good for him. But you've taken him out of his city, and you've taken him off a team that he tried very hard to make. So it's almost a punishment for him.
Does the 99ers give the money back to that parent? Or I'm sure Oxford probably waived something to get him on. But like you said, that's a lot. Like hockey's a big money business in Canada, right? And it's expensive.
And if you want to be a coach in minor hockey, there is way more things you have to become certified in. There's way more hoops you have to jump through to be a coach in minor hockey than there is in minor lacrosse. There's 2 levels to being a trainer, 2 or 3 levels to being a trainer even. It's not like you can just take your first aid and CPR, get your concussion protocol, and you're done. There's all kinds of stuff you have to do. You have to take, I can't remember what it's called, but basically it's easier to get your smart server to be a bartender.
So now, like everything these guys pay for Hockey Canada, then that pays for the national teams and the Olympics. Is that kind of almost the same where they're saying how all these parents in Canada, when they pay all these fees, are paying for Canada Lacrosse to pretty much sponsor their national team?
Wasn't the coach even, I won't say he's involved because I don't know, but why didn't the coach put the kibosh on this?
And like the thing is like, I'm sure there was signs that led to this. I'm sure that those kids were doing stuff on the ice, in the dressing room. They were acting certain ways. There's many adults that probably had witnessed a lot of different things and said nothing.
There was another local hockey team that last year they poured piss on that kid's gear. And that didn't really get the national stories as this kid, but I'm saying it happens, and we had helped out kind of helping that parent was trying to wash the stuff out, not even because doesn't want to spend hundreds of dollars getting this kid new stuff, but it still smelled after and everything, and we helped the person out. But it was just like, so what goes on that you don't even hear about, right?
There was in those posts, these kids are talking about shooting the pucks at his head on purpose or trying to hit him in the ribs on purpose to hurt him. I'm sure that shit goes on in the dressing room. They're throwing balls of tape at him. They're whipping. I played hockey. I played lacrosse. You've been in a lacrosse dressing room. You've been in a lacrosse dressing room. There is banter. There's a little bit of, you horse around a little bit, but these kids went to the extreme. I remember when I played hockey at that same age, hockey's very cliquey. I'll admit, yes, it's very cliquey. It was cliquey on the team I was on, and we might have threw the odd tape ball at somebody. Like if they made a bonehead play and that cost us a game, we're going to throw 3-4 balls of tape at him. But that was the extent of it. We might tie his pants in knots or something, so he has a hard time getting dressed because his clothes are tied in knots. But that was the extent of it. We weren't dumping piss on anybody. We weren't saying the things that these kids certainly were saying, and who knows what they were actually doing, because nobody ever caught that on tape or film or any recording. But when, like, in today's society, with the mental health awareness going on and everything, that particular incident to me set Brantford Minor Hockey, or whoever the hell was running the show, set them back about 40 years. Because how do you let that go on?
Especially too, like I said, like the guy that works for TSN's probably like it got national coverage, right?
So for sure.
And then and then again, all these things lead back to the kids. Those are the ones who suffer. And then and even the ones who were in the wrong, those kids who are in the wrong are still going to suffer because, again, they had to learn that from somewhere. They were taught that behavior, and it's all learned behavior that needs to be stopped because these kids are just innocent. They're playing sports, and then they're learning these things from their parents, probably, right? And then going into the dressing room and trying to threaten some little kid.
100%, it's learned. When a kid's born, they're not programmed to hate somebody of a different color, of a different religious belief, of a different sexual orientation. They're not programmed to do any of that. It's taught. So you're 100% right. It's learned behavior. What was the matter with this kid? Did he have a bad hair day and they just run with it? Or I don't know. I'm just glad the kid is still here. I'm glad he's still playing. And if anybody's watching that knows this kid, he's got our support.
Yeah, shout out to you. Keep playing. Keep your head in the game, and just keep playing. And everyone who is listening, leave comments as well. What would you guys do? What you think should be done? Because more conversations need to be happen about this, because otherwise it's just pushed under the rug, and then that kid grows up and he's just like, oh yeah, no one cared. It was in the news. It was in the news one week, and it was in the news, and then it's gone. But what is really being done? So leave some comments. Let us know what you think should be done. Well,
I'm going to jump back a little bit before we got on that topic when we were talking about kids watching this and going to their parents. Hey, were they talking about you drinking at our lacrosse game? Again, leave the comments. And if you want to leave a shitty comment, go ahead. But do you feel guilty if your child asks if we were talking about you? Do you? Do you know what you were doing? Do you have a guilty conscience? Own it.
Yeah. Sometimes, if we want our players to be champions, we have to be champions off the floor too. We have to show exactly what.
That sounded scripted. So
I don't know, man. I just pulled out the
even the fist bump.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. So. We got some more. You got some stats here? You got some stats?
Oh, jeez.
All right, so we got Blake McDonald just was signed by the Albany Fire Wolves.
Blake.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Blake and the team. He was just playing with the Snipers this year. He's played for Vegas and Philly in the past. Blake McDonald, he undrafted. He
He was a walk-on for Philly a couple
Yeah,
years ago.
they had their first ever free agent camp, and he happened to go down and not only got the invite to camp, but made the team and he's played for a few years, won a man cup with Peterborough, and he had a really good game this past weekend, and they had their Tucker night of lymphoma, and you know, he had a good pickup. He's wearing 15. He was wearing 66 this past weekend because the jerseys were ordered before he was on the team. But you know, I think that was a good pickup for them and helps out their back end. And like you said, I don't know. Albany just needs. They had picked Dyson Williams up. They kind of switched around their team a little bit from winning last year. I don't know if they.
Trav Longboat's back.
Yep, he was back. Yeah, he had a good game too. And Marshall still hasn't been playing. But yeah, I don't know if they have a shot really for the playoffs. Like they don't really have the two wins. But
let's jump back to Blake for a second. Blake is a Six Nations minor lacrosse product. Spent many a years under Timmy Bomber's tutelage. Timmy was his coach. I was privileged to be on the bench with him. Friends with Blake off the floor. Back to these schools that used to reach out to me. I talked to one this year, passed that coaching job off to Blake. They actually wanted him to not play and focus on coaching, and Blake's not done playing yet, obviously. But Blake is also on our, what is it, U20? Team Haudenosaunee.
Yep. He's like we talk about players giving back. He's somebody that's not afraid to give back. He helped coach Ours Express, and he helped coach the U17 teams last year. I think I know for sure for box, but I think for field even too. With Delby was the head coach, and he's he'll help out. And like you said, he's one of the assistant coaches for the team going to Korea.
Yes,
South Korea this summer.
So I mean, kudos to Blake. Yeah, he's doing great thing. Works right here in the community too.
Yeah.
His brother Trevor McDonald. Trevor played with me for the Tomahawks when I had him in 2023. We
Hamilton this year
won the championship. He went to Hamilton last year. This will be his second year with Hamilton. Gritty player. He's one of those players that you just cannot stand to play against, but love him playing for you.
Like I said, they had some injuries to the back end. I think they needed another good D guy, and you know, Blake was he was having a good year with the Six Nation Snipers in the ALL, and you know, one of the reasons he kept playing in that league and kind of stayed in shape, and then was right in the lineup day after getting
there's
signed.
another success story for the ALL, right? Played in the ALL, and then now stayed in shape. Now moving up.
I think that was his first time ever playing in the ALL too, and he only played like 3 games.
There it is. 3
Got the call.
games, all you need.
He's on their alumni list now.
Yeah, up in the rafters right there.
Yeah. Kudos to Blake. It is a success story for the ALL. Again, I don't want to beat up on the league because the guys that run the league I'm good friends with, but there needs to be more success stories coming out of the ALL. It's not the ALL's fault. I don't think it's the ALL's fault. They got great players across the board. I personally still think that teams need to be assigned to whatever NLL teams. I think it would work better if there was an actual farm team for each team. Like Toronto has the Marlies or Baby Leafs or whatever the hell they're called. I don't know. I'm not a Leafs fan.
What if it was even just 3 teams, 3 Canadian teams that said that, hey, this is going to be our little stomping ground, like for where we're going to have a training camp, just for these specific 3 teams or something like that reside in Canada.
Hypothetically, Snipers and Halifax, Bears, Buffalo. Why can't they be affiliates? Just strictly for those teams. Toronto Monarchs, Toronto Rock. Why can't they? And then out west, is it a 4-team league in the ALL West for the men?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
You got Vancouver, right? You got San Diego. You could even send them to Colorado.
I don't think right now there was any NL practice squad guys playing AL West, where there is a couple playing in the East. Mainly goalies, that Carter Page and a couple other guys too. I'm probably.
San Diego pulled up the tender there. Was it last year? And he ended up being a goalie for Victoria Shamrocks or Origlieri.
Yeah, he wasn't on AL West though.
I thought he was playing AL West when they pulled him up. San Diego pulled him up.
He was just signed.
Was he?
He was drafted, yeah. But Del Bianco.
I was just going to say, Christian Del Bianco is playing AL West.
So Del Bianco's, I don't know if it's contract negotiations with Calgary, and the NLL has the weird rules where he even said how he made the joke on Twitter. They were sharing it, how it's like the league free agency day would be a lot more interesting if you weren't a real street free agent at 40, because how they have like you got to be a certain age or this many years playing in the league before you can fully come out, like the team has no rights to you. So
how long is it then?
It's must be like 7, like because there's guys that sign 1 year. Let's say I signed a 1 year deal with the Rock last year. I played my rookie year. The Rock still has my rights where I can't just say, hey, Halifax wants to sign me, I'll sign with them, or you got to match. Like pretty much that team that runs you has your rights for a time being.
It's kind of like that.
It's like, is it like 30? You got to be like at least like 34 and up and north to be like, yeah.
There's a dumb rule in senior B. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but my interpretation of what I was told is because we're narrowed down to for senior B, we're only allowed to have 3 signed NLL players now for 2025, unless you're a hometown boy. And if you're over 35, it don't count.
If you're over 35, you don't count.
I'm like, why though? If you're over 35 and you're still good enough to be in the NLL, 100% that should count. It should count.
You are 2.
Exactly.
Your wisdom, body, soul.
So like you said, you can get Vino this year for the Rivermen. It won't count. He's 42.
Oh,
and he may go for a 3-peat in this goalie. But yeah, so Del Bianco.
Now I'm thinking.
Apparently he wants to. The rumors are he's only wants to play for Vancouver because he's from Vancouver, and then their old Calgary coach is their head coach, and he owns his own business. But Vancouver is Aidan Walsh, young goalie. He's really come into his own. So they're like, and then they've been pretty decent this year, won most of the games. So it's kind of, are they going to break the bank and trade away the future to Calgary and pay him a lot of money to get him? If that Aidan Walsh was playing a little bit worse, maybe. But
he played senior B last year for Ladner, and you know how the rumor mill is.
Yeah.
The rumor is Ladner's out of money for this 2025 season.
Yeah.
Wait. We had one trade. We had one trade that happened with MSL.
Yep.
And I was asking about what the
future considerations.
Yeah, what consideration meant.
Possibly money, but
possibly
could be money.
Yeah.
Could be draft picks. Could be like say in 2 years, or even in 1 year. Say the Chiefs are like, you know what? I think we're going to sign Lyndon Hill. That could be no consideration. We want him now.
So it's like having a get out of jail free card in Monopoly or something like that.
Something like that.
Because we're really surprised about this trade because Brooklyn ripped the Chiefs off, right? We all like the guy they traded away. London guy played junior A for Kitchener. I don't know if he got hurt in training camp, but he was on the Riptide like IR list like for 2 years, and then I don't think he's like I haven't seen that guy on like an ALO roster or anything like that. So I don't think he played anywhere this past summer. So it was kind of just a random guy the Chiefs drafted to throw in the deal, and then but you're gonna get back a guy like Graham Hossack, who's one of the best NLL defenders, and he's technically still signed with the PLL. He just re-upped his deal with the PLL and the Utah Archers in December. So is he going to leave the PLL? Is this a deal where they picked up guys like Dane Smith 2 years ago after PLL season was done, and Ian McKay this past year? So, and
who else came with Graham again? Hossack and who else?
And Dawson Theed, which looks like he's going to play because he already was like he was writing on Instagram that he was pumped to play with the Chiefs. And
big lefty.
Big lefty, yeah.
So here's the thing. Those two guys potentially being in Chiefs uniforms got to bump somebody.
Well, I thought there's rumors that Larson Sundown may leave and go back to Victoria. We also don't know about another lefty's legal situation. So,
but do they send them to the Rivermen?
I don't know. maybe.
Well, only one could go, right? Because the other one was working on the legal situation. Right?
Yeah.
There's only one option.
Not really. There's one lefty offense, and Hossack's a D guy.
So are you going to get Brad Cree or Steve Priolo?
I'm not saying nothing because I don't know what this looks like. Yeah. But as soon as that happened, I'm like, they got to make room. Mm-hmm. But you're right. If players leave and go elsewhere, there'll be room.
Yeah.
But at the same time.
But is there also rumors that there's more players to possibly come to? Like, you never know. Like, these rumor mills get thrown around. So
more considerations and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like you said. Yeah, I thought that was one thing almost when stuff happened last summer of they were kind of a little not weak on the left side, but they needed kind of a guy to bang bodies and stuff like that, right? Then they kind of moved Brian Cole up there from transition role, and
now they're bringing in Dawson Thied.
Yeah, technically they still have Eric Fennell's rights, who just got traded from Halifax. He came off tore his knee with the Chiefs in their last Man Cup run in New West in 2023, so he missed all last season, missed all summertime, and then Halifax traded him to Albany, and then Albany just flipped him a couple weeks ago to Ottawa. So technically he's got if maybe even he plays Riverman with you, you never know.
I legit don't know. I'm
sure the Chiefs will give him a shot.
I'll look both of you right in the eye. I'll look the cameras in the eye and say I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We're still waiting. Waiting.
My phone has been blowing up, but I'm.
Well, what about the Chiefs goalie situation? Because Linden also on there. So like, what string is he sitting at?
I can't speak for the Chiefs, but
obviously still Dougie and Warren are still
you're
starters.
You're hard done by to bump one of them right now. Honestly, like Linden's a phenomenal kid, great player. A lot of years, ahead of him. But it's not just Linden; it's any goalie coming in. You are going to be hard pressed to bump Dougie and Warren. You are. If right now, to me, Warren and Dougie, if one of them want to leave the team, it's because they want to. It's not because they got cut.
Dustin Hill's predominantly been that third string goalie for them, and then now you have Linden. So there's definitely at least a pipeline of goalies coming up. And then they drafted they protected Thunder Hill as well.
Protected Thunder, protected Annalise Dockstader.
Yep, and then Annalise Dockstader, because he played in Port Coquitlam this last year, Nanaimo senior, he drafted him. So now he's got some options. Does he go to Riverman? Maybe get called up Chiefs? Does he
go back out west?
Yeah.
But that's as soon as these kids graduate junior, even in junior, it's wide open for them because those guys left and went out west. We're still playing junior. Honestly, at the beginning of any season, any player can go wherever they want. It's just a matter of doing the paperwork. Like
they drafted the guy from Oakville too, but he might be a throw-in, future considerations or something like that. I don't really know if he makes the team.
Thunder could call me up tomorrow and say, "Hey, I'm going to go play out west." There's nothing I can do.
Go play for the Warriors. Woo!
Have that legal trouble trying to cross a border.
Hey man, I'm sure he's got that blood quantum letter and everything, man.
But but who carries that around? Who even carries that around?
Man, I carry that around with pride. Yeah.
But he said,
there it is, man. There it is.
And Lee Stocks there technically played with the Warriors, right, in Laxnai. So I think he was on a couple of teams' list of, hey, we want to. The Warriors were kind of looking at him, brought him to Laxnai. Maybe he's playing Riverman. Chiefs protected him, and Nanaimo drafted him. So he's a young player that, honestly, during Laxnai, he was tearing it up. Steven Stamp was surprised that no NLL team drafted him. I was surprised as well. He played 2 years at Onondaga, took last year off, and then entered the draft. So
when it comes to Annalise and Thunder, I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah.
I know what I know, all right?
Well, we're in for a good season this year, but we're not done yet.
How's that go?
Oh, the one high. So let's segue here. Okay.
One second before I cut you off, was the Hasek trade bigger than Luka Doncic going to the Lakers?
No. No. I'm clueless right now.
Hasek and Thied have a better chance of winning the championship than Donkey Kong, whatever his name is, going to the Lakers.
Call him Donkey Kong. All right, let's talk about the NLL just last Friday and Saturday night. We missed like 2 weeks, so let's just forget those 2 weeks, and let's just start with the game that I watched. I thought I want to know what you guys think. Who had the better night, Terefenko or Warren Hill?
Warren kept the minute, but Terefenko, he hit some nice goals. He's a good transition player, and
I thought that was a hockey
Ohio
name.
State product. He must have still been pumped up. Ohio State won the NCAA Division I football championship, and then a couple weeks later, this guy, the former Buckeyes, tearing it up. Like that announcer said, maybe he'll be trying out for offense next year. He had a really nice stop and go goal.
He was defense, and then all 3 of his goals were on transition.
Yeah, because he was a midfielder. He's from Pennsylvania.
The thing about defensive transition guys going up and having many conversations years ago with Sid Smith, because he was a defensive player, but when he got the ball, he would go. Mm-hmm. Kyle Jamieson, we're going way back. Kyle Jamieson was an NLL player, played for Team Iroquois back in the day. Another guy, fast D guy, would get the ball and go. Seldom, these goalies don't see these guys shoot, so they don't know where they're going to shoot. They don't know their moves, nothing. You talk to goalies and they're like, oh yeah, I face these guys all the time. I know their moves. I know what they're going to do. It's just a matter of, do I save them or do they just outright beat me? Because I know what they're going to do. D guys that come up, transition guys that come up and actually take a shot, goalies have no clue where they're shooting. Sometimes the player don't even know where they're going to shoot. They just shoot.
Yeah, they're just like, I got one shot, I'm taking it. And then just
Like I said, yeah,
whatever.
I thought Halifax had a rough start to the season, so it seems like they picked up some wins, and they could play in Philly this weekend. That should be a good game.
I thought Warren had a phenomenal night.
He made a lot of
He's
nice
so
saves.
flexible, that guy. Holy, did you see what he was doing out there?
Yeah, he made a lot of nice saves, kept them in the game the whole
I
time.
know.
I was doing something else Friday, so I didn't see the game.
Oh, hot date.
Dude, I'm on a whole ass other TV show.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying shit. I don't know. But yeah, I thought Warren did. Great on
Yeah,
Friday
he did
night.
really good.
Warren does surprise you because we all know Warren. We know what we know what he's capable of. But if you see him outside of lacrosse, you're like, how are you even that flexible? He's
That's
a big
what-
guy. He's
yeah,
a
that's
big
what
guy.
This is the thing. Like when we were younger, he would even play goalie in like playing like hockey, like
Mini sticks.
Yeah, like mini sticks, but also like floor hockey and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And he was very flexible like that too, and just kind of just would jump in front of the ball the most awkward way possible. But he was just great, and I was just. But yeah, like seeing him be that flexible at his age, because we're the same age, and I can't do that.
Oh, you're so
I
old.
can't do that.
Let me know
When
when
we
you get
talk
gray
about-
whiskers.
Oh, never.
Mainly watching that Halifax game, and then I only called the last minute 40 of Ottawa, but that's a team that's kind of gone a little bit downhill. Ottawa, had that really good weekend versus the Toronto Rock. They never made the playoffs as New York. Now maybe this was their year after transitioning to Ottawa.
I think they still might.
I think they're like 8th or 9th right now, so they definitely still have a shot.
How did you guys feel about the Albany game there? Because Dougie ended up leaving the game before the end of the first quarter. How did you guys feel about that?
I think sometimes maybe just tough being a goalie, and I didn't know if they were going to kind of put him back in. Sometimes, like you'll see, like even the week before against Buffalo at first, Deacon Knott had kind of came in relief of Nick DeMood, and then Nick DeMood went back in, and then when it got kind of out ahead again, Deacon Knott went in. So they kind of took Dougie out. That Andrew Kidd he only played 15 minutes. He was a practice squad goalie last year, and I think he also might have played Arena League as well. And then this year, I guess they said he only had 15 minutes of play time, so kind of was giving him a shot. And Buffalo's just really, really good.
Oh well, like it's Buffalo, right? They're gonna light anyone up.
I'm not gonna let Buffalo, like they may not win, but as of right now, I would say they are the team I think that's gonna win the championship again.
Probably them, and like I'm hoping Halifax.
Like you said, like Dane Smith, Josh Burns, Chase Rager, Kluche. That Ian McKay had a tragic thing. His stepfather passed away, and he's been scoring goals and really seems to be taking it on. I know his mom. I seen people were sharing on Twitter how he had a hat trick night and was the player of the game, and his mom was so happy the same week of his stepfather passing. So and he had a really nice goal. One of those goals, Dougie saved it nice and went to scoop it, and Ian McKay was right there and got it out the air, and he's
one
all
who
around
got the goal? He went around the net and then backhand. It was one of the highlights. I can't remember the name. I don't know if it was
Hoga too. I forgot to even name him, and then maybe Chase Fraser. Was it the Chase Fraser one? 95. Was it a righty? He came from the right, and
I think he was coming through the left.
to the left. So it's probably Josh Burns. I'm thinking.
I think so. Yeah.
Burnsy. Isn't he the league MVP?
Dean has been in the past, but I think he might have been like the championship MVP. Burns.
Maybe, yeah.
But how does that work for someone like, okay, get back to the Dougie situation. It was he came off the floor before the end of the first quarter. Does he make that? Does he kind of look at the bench and be like, yeah, hey, I'm not feeling it tonight? Does someone give him the look? How is that connection made?
Could just be the coach.
Kind of both. Like Dougie, before we don't know. Before the game, Dougie might even said, "You know what? I'm in a funk. I don't feel good. I don't do this. I'll start, but any first sign, pull me, or I'll pull myself." We don't know that conversation. It could have happened. I know at that level in NHL, NLL, goalies will do that. I'm not feeling it tonight. Yeah, I'm slated to start, so I'll start. If things are going good, leave me in. If not, I'll pull myself.
How about the fact that they almost had their face-off guy score the penalty shot Did you see that one?
Oh,
Connor Farrell, the milkman.
The milkman.
Milkman.
He had his Fogo stick on. He was spreading it, trying to spread the head out there a little bit, and the whole crowd was chanting. And he's straight up a Fogo, so he hit the goalie in the belly. But hey, he almost scored and gave John Tavares, they're up 16-10, 44 seconds left. At least he gave the crowd what he wanted. Then he put him back out there for the next offensive shift, and he just at least tried to take one more shot at
Give it
scoring.
to the milkman.
I always get a kick out of that guy's got some good style there. Do you watch all the pictures when they're coming in the dressing room? They got their nice suits on and stuff.
He played D1 and he played D2. LA, Long Island University Post, is now D1 in both sports, but he went there when their CW Post, and I believe he went there for football and then got kind of talked on for some buddies. They did like a hallway wrestling match and he lost or something like that, and then that's how he ended up playing lacrosse as a face-off guy.
He looks like he'd be into wrestling.
Yeah, I think he did play. He did play like at lacrosse growing up, but they were like, so he did play linebacker and lacrosse in college.
Speaking of linebacker, what about the size of some of those players on Vancouver?
Yeah, they got
those
some
guys are
big
huge.
guys. Yeah,
they were giving Randy Stott some trouble there.
They said they got Matt Beers, the Medice guy. I can't really say his name, but yeah, like you said, they got a whole.
He was like 6'6" or something.
So they were talking about this guy Gypsy, Johnny Murdy, and this old coach. I guess he used to not let his players stand on the bench. Paul Dawson, and a few guys, especially I guess when they said he was coaching Philly, they had Paul Dawson, Brody Merrill, Brett Manny, a lot of guys 6'4" and up. I guess he would make those D guys sit down. He would be like, guys, you can't stand on the bench. I can't see over you. Because they were like, our head coach is 5'5", and all the D guys were 6'5". So that Paul Dawson was just saying how he had to sit down and he's like, you kind of lose your momentum a little bit, like kind of your adrenaline, because you got to sit down on the bench because the coach is 5'5" and can't see over you.
They're just a different breed out on the West Coast for lacrosse. I mean, the Vancouver Warriors, they got giants, literal giants. We went BC for the President's Cup. All those guys that are playing for Ladner were James Ray. He was he wasn't the biggest guy on Ladner's team. And then you get guys even in Alberta. Alberta had some monsters.
Yeah, so is it all big farm boys, or what are you thinking? We used to see Western
GMOs.
We used to see Western C High School in Syracuse, and I thought they were farm boys. I was like, oh shit, look at these guys.
Yeah, they got some GMOs, some hormones, or something in that water.
A lot of kids nowadays are bigger though. Like I'm like, oh, he's like, holy shit, you're only 13. Like,
it's all the salmon they're eating.
The salmon. Well, it's like, imagine that though. Like, you can be a big defender, but when you got someone coming at you who's I think that one guy in the announcer said that guy was like 270 pounds, like 6'6". Like, but you're not going to stop that.
A small guy, 5'8", the Jake Pizzoni, who we interviewed on the website, he scored his first NLL goal last week, and he's been getting in these last few games for Rochester.
Nice.
I guess you'd have to ask somebody
Blaze Reardon, fan of the pod, had the shirt on. He scored. Who did Philly just play? Who was I watching Philly just play?
Did he get called up? Because he's on an ALL roster.
Blaze Reardon?
Yeah.
Still for Whippy or?
Peterborough, I think.
No, they might have maybe kept him on, but yeah, he's been playing for Philly and Blaze Reardon. Yeah, he's scored and looked like he was trying to fight a guy after. Who did they just play now? I'm blanking.
How many more games do we have until Tyson's back? It's got to be at least
I think
two, 3.
There was a good 2 buys in there, I think, which threw everything off. But yeah, a good 2 or 3. So he'll be sitting this weekend in Philly, and then I'm thinking at least maybe 1 or 2 more. It was definitely those bye weeks that have been making it seem a bit longer.
What about the Gash guy? The fight with Toronto Rock with Gash.
Yeah, have we not?
We ain't been on since then.
No, we missed that because I was
Joe Rogan reported this before.
Yes, Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
The Godfather, the Podmaster.
Like I said, the guy Gash, it sounds like he was Wisconsin, Michigan area. The dad was an NFL player, won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, and Beltray, they were just talking about him, Niagara Wheatfield guy, and like you figure that Gash caught him, and then ever since then I feel like that Gash has been like kind of starting crap. He threw the guy around in Calgary. The week later just tossed that guy, and then this past week something was happening. He beat the shit out of some guy. He's all over the internet, so nobody wants to fuck with him anymore.
How I've been saying that with the Michael Jordan.
They said you walk around the track arena in Oakville, and that guy's just huge. He's just like this, I guess, walking around on Sundays after he beat the shit out of that guy.
This is what I'm saying though, that like when I talk about the Michael Jordan or the LeBron of lacrosse, I mean in a marketing sense too. Like this guy's marketable. He's a big guy, good looking guy.
How about Joe Rogan thinking that the sport, it was a new sport?
That's what I'm patiently waiting. Like Joe Rogan, U.S. fans, if you're watching, get a hold of Joe Rogan. Lacrosse is the oldest sport in North America, if not in the world.
And it's surprising he doesn't know that. Joe Rogan's a very smart man, and like he knows his history. But I would think that he would know some.
Was this the one thing? What I got from the deal was when they were like, yeah, of course those guys kick the crap out of each other. They're Canadian. And I was like, hey, the guy's from Buffalo and the other guy's from Michigan. These are two American guys squaring off.
Then like Joe, oh yeah, they fight in lacrosse. I'm like, you don't know your ass from back the hole on the ground, Joe.
The only thing that which anybody new to the game when they see a fight in box lacrosse is those guys aren't on skates. That's a street fight. They don't have to worry about their balance. So it's a real, and that's probably the real difference of how much tougher or how much more intense a box fight is compared to a hockey fight is the fact that you don't have to worry about your balance and you're on shoes ready to square off.
Well, do you feel that like box lacrosse could ever kind of like turn into some type of like gladiator type UFC mixture of event?
I think it already is.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but like the way it's marketed though, the weekend like
does Brett the thing is I think Brett Freud, the commissioner of NL, needs to hire us to actually up this marketing, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's take a jump way back when you had said something about field lacrosse being a gentleman's sport. That is how it's looked at by some. It's also looked at as a white collar sport. But I remember years back, Assumption College playing in Ontario here, high school field lacrosse, and the boys did the hidden ball trick. And the referee, I know his name, I know him quite well. I won't put him on blast just yet. Blew the whistle, and he basically just said, "You can't do the hidden ball trick. I won't take possession away, but you can't do the hidden ball trick." Blew the play back in there. Everybody was like, "What? Why?" And I went up to him at the break. And I said, "Can you tell me why you cannot do the hidden ball trick?" He said, "Our commissioner," again, I know the commissioner quite well, great guy. I won't put him on blast. "Our commissioner said, this is a gentleman's sport. The hidden ball trick is not allowed." I said, "You need to pull your rule book out and show us that." He said, "It's not in the rule book." I said, "So then you can't blow it dead and say it's not allowed." Halftime was over. The game continued. This ref come over to me and he says, "You know what? You're right. I do apologize. I shouldn't have blew that dead. It's not in the rule book. Therefore, I cannot call it." But if you watch stuff like the beginning of a play in prime example, penalty, man up, or possession in box lacrosse. Haven't seen it done in field too often, but I noticed it real bad in box lacrosse the last few years. Guy that's going to start with the ball, the ref will hold the ball up, throw it up in the air and blow the play in so that everybody sees where the ball starts. Because oftentimes the hidden ball trick used to start right there, and sometimes the ref wouldn't even know where it was. He'd give it to the guy. Ref's talking over here, they'd pull a hidden ball trick over here. Ref would blow it in thinking it started at the top. Ball's over here. Everybody's focusing on the guy at the top. And it's not gentlemanly to trick the other team.
Would we almost say that the NL does need better social media presence and everything? Because the PLL, like you said, you can't really fight in field lacrosse. They'll show their different highlights of altercations through the seasons, and it'll be just a guy maybe ripping a guy's helmet off or a push-in match, and they'll promote that pretty hard, like, oh, this is a physical game, and then the NLL, and people will say, oh, this isn't box lacrosse, and that's, have you seen what the NLL does? But the NLL should promote their fights more and everything like that.
And then I think something like that, like a gladiator, UFC, lacrosse, box lacrosse, everyone gathered around and like looking down at arena too, and like David versus Goliath, like, you know, but it's teams, you know, that whole concept, like that should be box lacrosse, and there should be money behind it, like real marketing, real stuff, like Super Bowl, like a Super Bowl halftime show, stuff like that.
And like I said, Philly, Will Shipley, rookie for the Eagles, he's like third string running back, but the Eagles were kicking the crap out of the last team they just played before the Super Bowl. He got in there and got, you know, some good runs and caused a fumble versus Washington, and I guess he was a top 25 lacrosse recruit coming out of high school in North Carolina, but he chose to play football at Clemson. Philly had him at the Wings game, so like I said, at least a little bit of promotion, and him and Brendan O'Neill, they did a jersey swap. But the one video was the game getting pretty rough. Somebody got hit into the glass. They were grabbing each other, and the Will Shipley's. Everybody was, oh, look at Will Shipley's face. He was like, holy shit, because even in his lacrosse, he probably hasn't watched much box lacrosse. Being a field guy,
Belichick was a lacrosse guy.
Belichick.
We've said it before. Belichick was a lacrosse guy.
Is Belichick now coach in North Carolina? He's building his football team with lacrosse guys. St. Anthony's, predominant good football school and lacrosse school in Long Island. Their quarterbacks go into North Carolina to play both. Long pull out of Virginia. He just committed to play both football and lacrosse in North Carolina, and I guess a third guy today the same. So Belichick's pulling guys out of off the lacrosse field on the gridiron.
There's so many, like you talk about football players, U.S. lacrosse, whatever. One of the greatest players to ever play lacrosse at Syracuse was Jim Brown. And he's a football god.
Like you said, almost like a lot of the NLL guys pretty well like throw a stone on NLL locker, and most of those guys have played junior hockey, and then a lot of the U.S. guys coming from that football background, right? A lot of those guys, Farrell, and there was Fowler, and a Mark McNeil guy was a big midfielder. He played football and lacrosse at UNC. So a lot of those dual sports U.S. athletes have been football players, and then the Canadian guys are usually the hockey players.
You know, it'd be like a cool thing. Like, does Seattle have a lacrosse team?
No, they've been trying to grow it out there. There's been definitely some.
I was in talks with a school.
Is it Mercer Island? That's like a big town out there that has lacrosse.
I was in talks with a high school outside of Seattle this summer about going out there to coach. So there's field lacrosse there.
Eli Goldbrick, he was an Ithaca guy, and he talked about playing box for Onondaga a little bit, like being in Ithaca, and then he moved to Seattle with a couple other guys, and they have a whole program out there, and that's when he started playing in the WLA and Senior B League in Canada, and now he's like everyday regular for San Diego Seals. But like you said, a lot of it almost in the U.S. is the transplants. It's the New Yorkers and the people from Maryland. It's those East Coasters going to Texas and Florida and California.
Well, that's the thing. The way that America's going right now, a lot of people in New York and New York State and that type of tri-state area, they're moving. Like,
oh yeah,
everyone's moving in America to
Canada.
Other places.
Well, at least a lot of people go to North Carolina, the Texases. Tennessee, a lot of people go to places that are less taxed.
Well,
right, you're paying a lot of what you're paying in New York. Like even like my dad said back in the day when I was going to go to school in North Carolina for a year, he's like, "Oh, if I made what I made down here, we're living comfortably. Where you're living in a high bracket, expensive place to live."
There was a pro team in Portland before, Portland, Oregon,
and they had the Washington Stealth.
Yeah.
In Everett. So like there has been some NL there. NL did try, then they went to Vancouver, and then now are the Warriors as well.
Yeah. So
in Portland. They talked about having a team back in Portland. I guess the owner of Portland, they were talking about how I guess the owner, the daughter of the owner, I guess, is married to a player from Portland Lumberjacks till this day. She married
the family. Yeah, keep it in the family. All right, we got to get going, but any last minute things, anything going on with you guys? I know that you got a whole another show. Tell us, talk about your show. This is the time right
This
here.
is the time. Okay. I do appreciate you guys being flexible enough to cater to my schedule. Because yes, I'm on another TV show. I was in Winnipeg, Manitoba, middle of January. It was minus 700 degrees below zero out there. It wasn't that cold, but it was cold. The day I come home was minus 50. Show is called Ghost Hunters of the Grand River. We're filming season 4. Season 3 is on the air right now. I've been in front of the camera all during the day, all week this week. I'm in front of the camera again tomorrow. I have one day off, and then I'm in front of the camera on the weekend. It's coming to an end. Season 4 is going to be wrapped in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Lacrosse season is firing up. Like I said, my phone's been going off like crazy. I've had meetings with Rivermen Brass. I do hope to make my little trip to Tennessee. I'm hoping for sometime in March, early March. I'm hoping. I still communicate with that dad at least weekly. Gives me updates on that young fella. He's doing well. He's doing quite well. And I mean, I can't think of a better place to spend my Wednesday night except my show's on at 8:30.
Oh, and it wasn't just your schedule.
I know.
This guy is also very busy over here,
Yeah.
Well.
and then Gary's schedule too. Everyone here is very, very, very busy.
We sure are, and but I do appreciate it. I mean, we all got to cater to each other's schedule. I realize that, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging out to dry, kind of thing. So I do appreciate it, and I certainly am glad that hopefully we can expand. We're still in the market to travel. If somebody wants us to film in their location, we're still up for it. Give us a shout out. Daya's got a bunch of things going on. Check out the Instagram page. Check out the website. Get on board.
Yeah, and like I said, maybe we'll start that gambling circle soon, right?
Oh yeah, get her going, right? Get her going.
Gambling.
Are you? I heard you got drafted. NEPAM got you drafted. Max contract, 1 game there. For,
yeah.
Are you participating in the employment, the training there?
Yeah, we were just helping some guys get suited up, some kids that wanted to learn the game and everything like that. So, but then just been a little busy. We're watching a little bit of football and stuff. He had one of those colds in January, so maybe it was good to wasn't filming and coughing all over the mic. But
yeah, I was actually kind of sick last week too, so it kind of worked out. But like I was getting over it.
Yeah, like you said, there's been a lot of stuff. It was good. It was just no guests tonight and kind of got through everything. And
where I was, it was too cold to have a cold.
Yeah,
dude.
Winnipeg just has Jay. Next thing for Jay would be haunted arenas. There's got to be one around here where Jay can...
You work at one.
Yeah. He's got. I thought you were there chasing goats that one day, but it was just talking about you're off the field, right?
Yeah. We did a segment where they were talking about personal stuff. They were filming us. What do you do outside of this? So we were filming myself and a young man that I've coached many years. He's also a cast member of mine, Todd Thomas Jr. Stellar righty offense for the Grand River Warriors.
Go Warriors! Warriors on 3.
They were shooting the ball around, talking lacrosse at the ILA, and so yeah, we were there. But I do what I got to do. There's a bunch of stuff coming down the line for me personally. All positive, all good stuff. We'll continue to grind away.
Yeah, like I said, some stuff in the near future and everything. And keep it rolling.
Right on. And because of all the border situation kind of right now, you can go to shop.beyondpride.com, and it's only available in the US right now for all of our merch, but you can go to shop.beyondpride.com, get yourself some Creators Game merch. And then we're also going to be having some workshops here at Through the Red Door. That's where this is taking place right here. There's going to be some workshops going on where basically we're going to be teaching, film, TV, tech, different things like that. So if you want to learn about, script writing, set designing, you want to get in front of the camera, you want to be behind the camera. If you're a youth here on Six Nations, you're interested in that, make sure that you fill out the registration form. I'll put the link down here because I'm also going to make this into a reel as well. Yeah, make sure that you register, come out, and learn how this all happens, because you could be in front of the camera just like everyone here. And until next week, this is the Creators Game, episode 21. We're out of here. Peace.